are we an Apple?
We're an Apple.
The Apple. The English 1A model syllabus. And as you probably know, I think most of you, okay. Okay. Let me step back. We have, for 3 semesters now, been implementing something new in English 1A and in the composition courses leading up to English 1A, 201, 269, as well as ESL Writing 5 and 6, the portfolio project that includes 1 in-class essay, 1 3 to 5 page, roughly 3 to 5 page research paper, and it's being graded holistically, and ultimately students in different levels are getting different, they're getting a score based on how they're being assessed by 2 different people in the faculty, and what that score relates to depends on what class you're in. And this is dealing with a lot of larger issues, including making sure that students don't get stuck in developmental classes, giving students who are leading up to 1A a sense of what it is that they can prepare for, and ultimately creating a situation where some students can get credit by exam and help to accelerate their process through the various courses that they need to take. And it's been really exciting and also pretty challenging for all of us involved in it, because it has, on one level, it speaks to a lot of these really larger and really pressing concerns, and that's awesome. And on another level, it has required that we kind of completely rethought the way that we taught English 1A and all the courses that sort of directly lead up into English 1A. So there's been kind of this tension, sort of, would you say, between balancing the theory and the practice, the larger vision, and then sort of on the ground what actually happens in terms of planning your syllabus. And you know, personally, talking about self-disclosure, I'll self-disclose I like to take pride in having an organized syllabus and schedule. And for years, my students have said, "Wow, how's everything's so organized? It's so clear when it's going to happen." And just like this last semester, I was just moving things around. Okay, we need to cancel that and do this, and I think I've gotten a better sense of it over the last 3 semesters, how to sequence the various assignments leading up to the portfolio. And I've tried different things. People who have taught English 1A, 201 have tried different things, and ultimately this is what we're trying to do by creating some kind of model syllabus, or at least not if not a syllabus in terms of what your syllabus has to say, but at least a model schedule. A schedule that has a kind of sort of meta awareness of itself. This is what we're going to try to do, and this is when we're going to try to do it, and this is why. Just not to suggest that all classes have to operate exactly the same way. I always want to make sure there's room for instructor autonomy, but because we want to make sure that people feel that there is some kind of sequence, some kind of structure that they can look to and think, okay, this is the skeleton, this is what we're going to work with. And our friends at Pace, who started the day off talking about the writing workshop methods and the grammar games, for instance, this might be something that would be useful for them, or for anyone who's interested in what we're doing.
Are you guys still
portfolio?
Good.
Yeah. I can't get a sandwich.
Well,
They're right there.
Okay.
And that's the great thing. You can read the model syllabus and have a
I
sandwich
don't need
too.
to.
Yeah, you can have a
Yeah.
sandwich, model syllabus, the whole thing.
Laura, did you want to add something?
Yeah, and I think too, one of the challenges with the portfolio is, since it's in 269, 201, 1A, writing 6, and writing 5, all do it. There's all these other things that happened in those classes, and it's figuring out a way to try to make all of that stuff balance with all the stuff that you're trying to do to get them prepared for the whole spectrum of things that they need to accomplish and the goal that they have to complete the English 1A class. And so one of the things I think we were trying to do with this model syllabi for the 1A is sort of provide a pathway to actually see that it is possible to get a lot of this stuff in there. And the thing that with what we did, we also wanted it to be flexible enough where you can add, delete, modify, rearrange, but it gives you something to work off of. If you're finding that, gosh, how do I get, okay, because for 1A you have to have the 2 books, and you have to have, all of these different writing activities, and then you have the portfolio activities, and then they're all due 3 weeks before the semester is over, and then, so
Yeah.
we tried to come up with a couple of different ways that people could approach it.
So,
Okay.
all right, so these are the results of the first portfolio. It's not really something I want to dwell on too much, but this was in spring 2011, a year ago. We did our first portfolio project, and we didn't know what we were gonna find. And like many people here who've been talking about different assessments that they've been doing, we were surprised. And what we were primarily surprised by was how low some of the scores in research techniques are. That's the main thing that I wanted to show, is how low these scores are. There are a lot of other things that we're working on in different ways. We noticed, for example, that in English 269 and English 201, the scores were really similar, much more similar than we had thought. And so we're working on creating an accelerated course for English 269 students. And those of you who are not English teachers don't know what I'm talking about when I say English 269. You do?
I do.
Oh, good.
Because I've worked
Rather
with
than-
cohorts.
Rather than 2 levels below, we only have 1 level of transfer.
Well, we're experimenting.
Experimental.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
trying to drop
we're doing all that, but this particular apple is about the fact that the research techniques were the lowest area, and there were some other areas where we were really pleased, like clarity and style. You can see the orange bar is the English 1A bar. And some things that weren't surprising. Anyway, research is what we focused on. And so I also wanted to show you one other thing, which is the program matrix that we have for the English Language and Literature program, our AA program, which is the one that most students take. It also reflects English 1A is not only a requirement in the English Language and Literature program matrix, it's a class that all students take. And when you look at GE, General Education, at Berkeley City College, whether you're looking at IGETC or the GE for any AAs or AS degrees, or you're looking at CSU GE, any general education program, English 1A is a required course. And not only that, when you look at our institutional learning outcomes, one of our 7 institutional learning outcomes is information competency. And a big part of information competency has to do with research, finding materials and being able to research. The one class, required class in general education that teaches that skill is English 1A. It is the place where we know students will be getting those skills if they get them anywhere. And when you look at the I, the D, and the M mean introduced, developed, and mastered. So when you look at these different skill areas, writing good essays, analytical reading, and we know we have some work to do in that as well. In the AA for Language and Literature, applying context and critical theory to literature, these different areas, you'll notice that students get lots of practice in different courses. But for research, it was just one course. And then we added in the English department the idea that they developed the skill in English 201. So now there are 2 courses, but still, that's not very much. The way that it was, not only was it one course in English 1A, it was one assignment. So this is one of our 7 institutional learning outcomes. And the only place, not that nobody else assigns research papers, but the one place where we know students are going to learn how to write a research paper is English 1A, if they transfer. And there's one assignment at the end of that class. And so when you look at that, it's not too surprising that no matter how good the teachers are, students aren't going to do very well on the research assignment because they're not getting lots of practice.
What's the component of the research paper that is the most problematic for you? Is it
Well,
like the bibliography? Is it like finding outside sources? Is it plagiarizing?
That is a great question and one we're talking about a lot. But
Yes.
Yes.
Can I show you
All of
this?
those.
One other graphic and then we'll talk about that. Okay, so because this course is articulated with UC Berkeley, we have certain requirements, and actually we have gotten feedback from UC Berkeley when we have syllabi that don't have all of those requirements. Reading at least 2 books is a UC Berkeley requirement. We need that for articulation. At least 32 pages of writing is another requirement that comes from them, but it's a good thing to have students do these things. And this is a requirement that we came to as a department in the discussions based on how students were doing on the portfolio and looking at the fact that they weren't getting a lot of practice in research. We decided, this is one of the big, it's probably the big change. that not only would they be working on the research skills in the course one level below English 1A, but instead of writing one big, long, 10-page research paper at the end of the semester, which is kind of a standard all over the state, that in freshman composition, that's what students do, that we decided that they should really have more practice in that, so they would write 2 shorter research papers instead. And that's what we wanted everybody to do, and that our portfolio would consist of the second research paper. So they would practice it with lots and lots of scaffolding and lots of support with one research paper. Then they would write a research paper mostly on their own, so we could see what they had learned, and then that would go into the portfolio. And so this became 2 5-page research papers. And when we talked about it in our conversations, we also talked about the fact that we don't want to throw away the concept of teaching students just how to write an essay at home and in class. So we said, these are the minimum requirements kind of based on the discussions that we've been having in the department. And these are the learning outcomes for this class. So a number of students, when we started having these discussions, and I know Blake and Laura alluded to this, not a number of students, a number of teachers responded by saying, quite reasonably, how am I going to fit this all in? How am I going to fit in? Because English 1A is a class where you teach a lot of skills, and it's very time consuming. How am I going to fit this all in with what I'm already doing? And so this is what we came up with for how you fit it in. It actually took us 2 semesters.
Yes, it did.
So I just wanted you to have that, because that's kind of the thing right there. We haven't, right?
Yeah, and the thing too with this as well, there's also areas, I guess, kind of like a binary branching tree, which have movement. So you can move certain things. So like, for example, like this, the reflective essay, like at the end here, if you, let's say, wanted your students to focus on research here, you could move the book here and then move this up there, and have this be a reflection of this essay. So there's a lot of places where stuff can shift and change based on however it is that somebody wants to envision the class, but nonetheless, it shows a way
Right.
to get it all in there,
Right.
so that there's at least some kind of foundation that you can build off of, use aspects of, or whatever it is that you want to do with it, but it's a way.
Right, it's a way. Exactly, so we
Prove
can.
that can be done.
Yes,
Yes.
so we can say, so if somebody says, how can I possibly do this? We say, well, here's a way
The
you can
way.
do it.
Yeah.
This is the way you can do it. And if you have another way to do it, this is what you want, this is what we're saying people have to do. They have to have these minimum requirements, and they have to teach these learning outcomes. These are the have-tos. And then what this is called, the heading, what it says now, is English 1A plus model schedule. All of those words are carefully chosen. It's not a syllabus. We're not saying to people, this is your syllabus. You can use this to build a syllabus. And it's like a template. And it's not required, it's a model that you can use. And we said English 1A plus because we thought English 201 might want to also use this in some way. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So, that's it.
Yeah, cool.
It's pretty fun. Oh, and we also talked about, once we finally finish this, and there it is, we talked about, now that we have it, wouldn't it be cool to do another Apple where we develop some materials for MLA formatting and paraphrasing and annotating and Pi, all of the different things that we teach.
And kind of like riffing on the ESL website, where you guys have all of the stuff collected in this beautiful website that has all of these different materials, where you could have little skill pockets, folders.
I think we should do mini videos for each of those things and
That would
decide
be great.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Like Laura can do pie paragraphs, and someone can do introduction, someone else can do excited.
And then we can have some sample research papers that we can.
Written by instructors.
Turn
this-
PCs.
So this also gives us a framework for the next steps, the next things that we can develop as a department.
Great.